7:32. This is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne.
Should we take a look at today's newspaper front pages? Starting with the Telegraph, saying that hospital admissions because of flu have jumped more than 40% in a week as the NHS braces for one of the worst outbreaks of the virus in recent years.
The Eye has the ambulance strikes, saying the NHS is under extreme pressure as 999 calls trigger an operational crisis.
The Guardian says Rishi Sunak is under growing pressure to negotiate with the nurses after 4 Conservative former health ministers joined the plea for a way out of the ongoing strikes.
The Mirror says this is what compassion looks like and covers the story of 2 nurses rushing from the picket line to help a man who'd collapsed on a pavement. But, I mean, what else would they do?
Well, exactly.
They're going to stand there and watch someone suffer, right?
Over-dramatise it for a front page, can't you? The Times runs with Prince Harry's relationship with his brother. They say it may be damaged beyond repair. Who knows, really, after the accusations that came in the Netflix documentary yesterday.
The Mail claims battle lines were drawn between William and Harry.
Dignity in the face of treachery, quite a word.
Wow, that is, isn't it?
Well, it is sort of, isn't it? Yeah. So with us is Liz Kershaw and Benjamin Butterworth, who've been with us all morning. Thank you. Liz, we're starting with migrants replacing COVID. As a money spinner for Serco, you're going to have to explain this to me.
OK, well, the COVID element is that during the pandemic and lockdowns and restrictions, etc., Serco were running test and trace, and they made money hand
So
over
this is a
fist.
company that was running...
It's a private company, and now it's making money from placing migrants in accommodation. So what it highlights, and they're going to make profits of 235 million this year from revenue, a turnover of 4.5 billion. It's all public money. It's all taxpayers' money. They run prisons. They run cleaning services.
But test and trace was generally seen to be a dismal disaster, wasn't it?
Well, yes. And it's just outstanding that things that are supposed to be public services are outsourced and privatised, because as soon as you privatise, give something to a private company, they're going to add a premium, aren't they, because they need to make a profit.
Well, except but the counter-argument to that is they run it more efficiently.
Well, test and trace was that.
Well, no, but that was something brand new that's never been done before.
Anyway, they're now making money, because as we know, it costs nearly £6 million a day to house migrants in hotels currently, and now they're getting ex-military sites and holiday camps.
So after impressing us all with test and trace, they've now got another big government...
Well, it just seems that whatever service the government needs, it's placed largely in the hands of Serco. So what Serco do is they go to places where accommodation is very cheap.
Like Pontin's holiday camp.
Well, places like Rochdale or Oldham, where I'm from, where there's run-down accommodation and they can get it cheaper off private landlords, etc., and they make money out of it. It's okay. It's possibly doing the job, but it just seems to me a bit backhanded. You know, I don't think taxpayers realise that they're paying this one company so much of the public.
And who is this guy Soames? We got him.
Oh, he's retiring now.
He signs off from 8-year tour of duty.
Yes. Well, he's not military, but he's with his 3rd profit upgrade in 7 months. He's made a huge success of it and he's retiring. That's the peg for the story, but it just looks more into it about their books and what they actually do in the UK in the name of the state.
Someone's got to do it.
I think privatising things isn't necessarily a problem, you know, because they can be far more efficient. But you've spent lots of the morning...
Why though? Why do we accept that? It's like saying all public servants are crap and you've got to go... It's like Virgin Medical run all sorts of things that people think they can use the NHS brand, but they're making millions out of the National
but
Health
there's also
Service.
factors like the fact that a private company can borrow and invest in products like healthcare in a way that, for example, councils can't do things like that because there's rules about how much public money you can borrow against. So you can have advantages like that by privatising things. So, you know, not to sound like the arch Blairite that I am, but I think it can often be a useful thing. But, you know, you've spent lots of the morning discussing the cost of trains and the strikes and stuff. Well, there's an example where I think it just doesn't add up because, you know, my train to Manchester is 100 quid. It's 10 times what it would be in France, and the staff aren't even paid appropriately as most of them see it.
No, but
so you wonder where some of the money goes.
But Avance is a private company. Where, you know, who's saying that it wouldn't be better if the railways wasn't one nationally owned body?
Well, it's
France, SNCF.
But it's hindsight, isn't it? When you look back at when it was National Rail, and it was a disaster with ancient rolling stock and bad service.
But that's through lack of investment, isn't it, and poor management. So the question is, and you've raised it really, Benjamin, why do we accept that things have got to be outsourced to private companies in order to make them work? Why do we accept that? And then on the other hand, we defend the elements of the NHS which aren't privatised. And, you know, everybody's an angel and it's the flagship health service in the world. It isn't. But I think somebody needs to get a grip on this. And it's all about good management. I mean, obviously, he's a great manager.
Yes.
Because he's made the company loads of money.
What's the profit, though?
235 million.
But out of 235 million, out of a turnover of 4.2 billion, it's hardly huge. It's not, I mean, look, it's a lot of money for the company, but it's not a lot of money out of the public pocket, is it?
But one of the other reasons is that I think governments like to take the cost of things off the government spreadsheet.
Yeah, it's cooking the books.
And so if they put that out to private firms, like I forget what it was with
PPI,
the hospitals. That's
PPI.
it, yeah, with the hospitals.
Gordon Brown cooked the books. He made it look like he'd cut public spending by putting out hospital building to private
Simply
developers.
because you don't see it, it doesn't appear on the ledger.
So, for instance, at the time I was working in BBC Coventry and Warwickshire, and they built the new flagship hospital in Coventry, and now the mortgage on that could employ the excess that they pay in a mortgage, because at the time they made it look good by not spending public money on it, could now pay, you know, a lot of nurses and doctors and pay for drugs, but it's mortgaged to the hilt. It's all a bit underhand.
Well, let's move away from government controversy to royal controversy. The firm was standing very firm last night.
That's the headline in today's Sun newspaper. And of course, I mean, I was going to say you've all seen the Netflix, but I think we've all been relieved of that burden. I did watch the first three. I can't really face the second three.
No, I couldn't face the second three.
But the real question that's hovered over Harry and Meghan and the rest of the royal family is whether they will react, whether they will pursue a fight or say recollections may vary. And what you've got here is that Catherine, the Princess of Wales service in memory of the Queen and for Christmas took place last night. And so you've got this image on lots of the front pages and described in the Sun today of the family, the new Fab Four, the Sun calls it, sort of the two eldest kids and the parents, so George, Charlotte.
In fact, that's their Christmas card. We're looking at the picture now of the whole family. That's their Christmas card this year. It's lovely, isn't it? And
I think what we're seeing in that photo and the images from last night's Carol service that I think will be aired on ITV is their response to the Megflix row. It's that they're probably not going to put a statement out, and certainly at this point, but what they're going to do is look unified, look dignified, try and show what use they can be in public service. And I think this is where they're going to draw the dividing line, because, you know, Liz and I were discussing this earlier, but where do Harry and Meghan go from here? Because surely it's dwindling returns and ever less spectacular claims as they run out of bombastic things to describe about their relatives. And so actually maybe the right strategy, and the one it looks like the palace has taken, is to try and look dignified and let them flail off into the wind.
And presumably not respond privately either, because that's just given fuel for the next documentary.
Well, exactly. I think there's a scene in one of the new episodes where Harry shows a text message from William after they quit the family.
But isn't it odd that a video camera was there recording that moment?
Bizarre.
When he said, "Oh, I've just got a text from William," and he shows it to Meghan, and she goes, "Wow, we don't see what the text said." But there was a movie camera there to capture the moment.
Didn't come up reconstruction.
No, it didn't say. The whole thing is
a mystery we can never resolve of how that happened. Maybe $100 million helped.
So something that gets right on my pip end, Liz, in the Times, smart motorways.
Oh,
There's a bit where I come off the M1 onto our lovely road.
Junction 11A.
Junction 11A. Yeah, and there's a hard shoulder which sometimes becomes a lane. And the number of
a hard shoulder that sometimes becomes
a lane. Yeah, that's what the smart motorways do.
I know. And the only thing that tells you that is an X or a tick or something.
Yeah. And the number of times when it is a hard shoulder that people undertake you driving up it, and it's absolutely
terrifying.
Lethal.
Well, the figures today are that the Office of Rail and Road have said that a stationary vehicle on the inside lane, which varies between being the hard shoulder and used past the carriageway, is supposed to be detected within 20 seconds. And then the overhead gantries can display it and close the lane, etc. But this is only happening in 59.6% of cases. Well, you only have to be the 59.7th case and somebody's ploughed into the back of you. And I had a blown tyre on the M1 a couple of weeks ago. It was terrifying, but because the motorway was so quiet and I was on the inside lane, there was a hard shoulder straight onto that, out of the car, up the embankment, on my phone to the RAC. I thought, what if there hadn't been a hard shoulder?
What would you have done if there hadn't been?
God, no. This morning, on our lovely road, this is a road, for those who don't live, it links the A5 and the M1. And it's been built in recent years and it just goes through open fields. It's unlit, it's surrounded by fields. This morning it was so foggy, it was dense fog. And my windscreen got coated in salt from lorries throwing it up. And my wipers froze up. And I couldn't see a thing. And there's no hard shoulder. And the only thing that got me off, I was panicking, was that I saw a lorry with its lights on hazards in the distance, and then I could determine that it was actually in one of these emergency zones. So I pulled in behind him, and then I got a bottle of water out, and I had to chuck it over my windscreen and then try and carry on. But if that hadn't been there, then I got onto the M1, as you say, and it's not a hard shoulder.
I cannot believe that anyone thought.
There's no refuge. There's a refuge point every mile between one of those points. Anyway, these were brought in 2006. I remember the first one was trialled on the M42 under Birmingham, and it's cheaper basically to increase the volume that the road can handle. It's cheaper to turn what was the hard shoulder into another lane than it is to build
a lane
outwards. But the number of people that have been killed, the big families taken...
Nobody likes them.
No.
And all the politicians who are ever quoted on them say that they're a mistake and we should withdraw the whole
dangerous.
thing.
Anyway,
they are very, very dangerous.
It's now acknowledged that the technology is clearly lacking. It's substandard. So unless you've got foolproof technology to detect a stationary vehicle in one of these lanes, it's going to be a death trap.
Yeah.
Take care. I was thinking of you on the lovely road this morning. I was thinking, this road's not lovely today.
Not lovely today.
No.
Benjamin, in the Times, there's this fascinating story that insects feel pain.
They do.
And that maybe we shouldn't think of farming them.
Yes, they feel more pain than Harry and Meghan, I think.
Gosh, that's a lot.
Yes, indeed. So it's really interesting, actually. It's a study by scientists at Queen Mary University of London and the London School of Economics that has found that insects can feel pain in a similar way to that which humans feel pain. Now, the reason this is a big question is because huge amounts of pesticides are used, and this research suggests that they are damaged by them, that they know what's going on, that they try to escape it, that they recognise a foreign substance on them. And so they're asking the question of whether it is moral and justifiable for us to use pesticides if it is now the case that we learn that the insects can feel it. It also found that bumblebees have very similar recognition of pain to how we do if you harm them physically.
But also, I mean, we're looking. I mean, there's lots of talks about farming insects for food.
Yes, I mean, I think, well, Liz was saying about how Jeremy Clarkson's a big advocate for getting lots of insects back. I have to say, I've eaten insects before, and they're quite nice. I think it's quite, there are questions about having not as many insects as we used to because we're killing them with things like pesticides, but then you have other food shortages which human beings are facing, and the effects of farming things like pigs and cows and poultry, which is hugely damaging to climate change, causes a lot of problems, more than cars, from the methane coming from those animals. So maybe if we switch to insects, I think these are the big questions we've got to grapple with.
Well, we can't be bothered about farming insects because of the pain.
No, because we farm animals.
Because we farm animals.
Yeah, but I don't think, or at least in theory, we don't subject them to intentional pain while they're alive in the way that clearly we are doing to insects. Because if you're spraying them with this, nasty substance and they're feeling that, I think that's a very different situation to the one that scientists and that farmers thought was the case.
Maybe. I don't know.
No, I don't know about that.
Someone think of the insects.
That's an awkward thought, isn't it?
It is, but do you know what? I think, often...
Should we care,
we
in other words, about insects?
We seem to think that all these other animals that we share the planet with, don't feel like we do. And of course...
Yes, it sort of makes sense, doesn't it?
I think there's a changing of attitudes that's going on.
We won't be able to eat anything.
Let's get on to sprouts then.
Yeah, let's talk sprouts. They don't feel any pain.
Well, they do, don't they? Shriek when you pull them out the ground, or is that something else?
Lord.
That's
Carrots.
me.
I think this is the top story today as we go to this special time of year. A gran says she dreads Christmas because she has a phobia of Brussels sprouts.
I don't have any, darling.
No, she doesn't say exactly what she thinks the sprouts might do to her, but she says, I'd lift up my Yorkshire pudding on mashed potato and find one underneath, and half inside my mash, it just made me shudder from head to foot.
Hey, it's not. She's not too scared to hold a bowl of them there, is she?
Yeah, but they're raw. I got my sprouts on a stick this week. I love that. I don't understand how... Anyway,
If you've got a phobia of Brussels sprouts, just don't have them.
Yes.
and then...
Easy
Yeah, but it's
problem to
just this
solve.
hidden one under your mash.
Well, maybe they would if they know.
But the other one I wanted to say was I'm going straight out and buying a selection of these pizzas because I didn't know you could get them. Christmas tree-shaped pizzas and such, with things like pigs in blankets on and cranberry sauce.
So
and
Christmas
brie.
pizzas?
Christmas pizzas, and they tested 7 of them, and I can't wait to try it. Although... just have the meat and veg. You don't really need the dough, but it's a treat, isn't it?
Oh.
What will they come up with?
Who knows?
Who knew you could have
Anything
Christmas
that'll
pizza?
sell.
Yeah.
There you go. Lovely. Thank you both.
Thank you
Good to
very
see you
much.
this morning.
Thank you.
And if we don't see you again, Merry Christmas.
Yes, Hannah.
No, we're out next Friday.
Are you?
We're
Next
not.
Friday. Oh,
No,
you're
but we're
not?
not.
No, we're not.
Oh.
No.
Oh, well.
We're off to the
Get you.
Bahamas, aren't we?
Yes, we are. We're going to have a
Together?
lovely time. Yeah, we're going to have a lovely time.
I wish. It would be fun.